Imagine an isometric RPG about a cyberpunk world with investigations inside the video games of the future, in which there is no combat and all the problems must be dealt with through dialogues. It sounds, if not like the new Disco Elysium, then at least one of the most interesting RPGs this year. Welcome to our channel, and today we're gonna observe a game deck. But all of us is mostly not very implemented. Even the way Gamedec shows virtual worlds of distant future does not seem interesting, but still, in game there is one very curious and unexpected trick that authors turn with the narrative. True is not completely clear whenever this happened on purpose. 22nd century Warsaw, people live in giant high-rise buildings, the richest are upstairs. At the very bottom, terrible poverty reigns in which most of the town people live. But on the other hand, a bunch of high technologies such as cyber implants and robots appeared, as well as our virtual worlds feel almost inseparable from the reality. If such a description seemed too cliché on you, then I have the bad news for you. The authors of Gamedec did not manage to bring at least something original to the familiar surroundings. A bartender with the cybernetic hand, corporations with their secrets, rumors about super cool AI, the main character commenting on the what is happening in the style of noir detective, with a not very successful career. Literally all possible cliches are collected. Even the only time the player has to go out into the streets of the city in the dark, illuminated by neon signs. All these could be set off by an interesting visual series. Let's remember Cyberpunk 2077 and a some similar setting, but it will be difficult for you to confuse the crushing alleys of Night City with something. Or here is another example, Ruiner, where this used it seems almost all combination of shadows and neon red. In terms of style, Gamedec is surprisingly stringly with interesting solutions. You will not notice anything that you have not seen everywhere many times. This is no curious stylization here, and there are very few small details in the locations. The portraits of heroes in general make you remember about the cheap browsers and mobile games. And episodic characters with whom or few dialogues have no portraits at all. Instead of them, everyone has the same dark silhouette, which is why at first you even confused with whom are you talking about. Why bother to designate them their way? The orchestral soundtrack by Gamedec, which is also played not so often, is very expensive either. As the result, most of the time you have to spend alone with the clearing of the influence and background noise, the howling of a weak wind, which does not help the atmosphere too much. It is not often that video games are shown that would be addicted into cyberpunk future, and Gamedec is generally named after the profession of the protagonist, a Gamedec that specializes in detective investigations with the games. But virtual worlds to visit are shown here without fiction. Just to understand what diversity there could be in setting of not distant future, let's recall for example a series of stories from the LCA magazine about beta testers of games in advanced VR. And there was a lot, even an action game about a deacon or a housing office simulator in the style of Magician Realism. Gamedec has surprisingly stand-off set of games. There is an online noir game where you can have sex and brutally kill people. Also MMORPG about a peaceful town in the Wild West. And another online game about the life of warring samurai clans with the settlements on large flying island. A virtual world resort will be shown for 5 minutes. And that's it all. Why copy almost the entire westward set of Santix? It would seem there are video game which is you can build ultimately fantastic worlds, and it's all the more strange that those games in reality of the game deck, obviously one of the most popular. The developers tried to show the trolls grind cheats and pumping in F2P games. They even joke at the very beginning about buying expensive spaceship in a space simulator that has not been yet released, but the way virtual reality is shown here seems outdated by about 24 years. After all, in Gamedec almost everything is built on talking and exploring the things, and the gameplay is generally familiar. The choice of answers and actions in dialogue boxes as many in games like Disco Elysium or Planetscape Torment. You need to open the door, a dialog box will appear. Want to hack the program? Dialog box. Examine the corpse in a dialog box. Even a single fight goes through a dialog box. All through to the end of they will show a cutscene, how you won or controversially how you beat on you. And this is the sense The look at the cyberpunk in the game does not even seem so hack yet. Much more often in high tech and low life sets you have to shoot, fight or hide from everyone. But outside of the dialogue there are not many mechanics in the game deck. Although something new is being introduced in each of the wits awards. For example, in a game about the Wild West, you can get currency for growing and collecting pumpkins and berries, including in order to pump inside this very MMO. So Gamedec gives a choice to those players who have not invested in programming skills for their character. And the authors will help of the small episode with a grind, love as spaceware games. Through the joke is far from there is no game wrong dimension where is such a satire perhaps 10 times more intensive. Gamedec with its concept could be one of the best RPG of the year, but for some reason the authors decided to just show the most common cyberpunk cliches in non-linear RPG format, where there are only dialogues, and this is clearly not enough to make something memorable. So what do I like? Solving all problems with the dialogues, non-linearity, the plot is fascinating from time to time.